BBC Political Lead and Insiders host David Speers is at the ALP's National Conference, and he is here to give us his take on the week in politics. Speersy, welcome back to the program. Now, how is housing on the national agenda at the conference, and how have the government's changes to housing taxes been received there?
Yeah, look, I've got to say at the Labor conference here in Adelaide, it hasn't been the dominant issue, housing. There was a bit of a protest, though, outside the conference yesterday on day one by the AMWU, one of the peak unions, calling for a more national action on housing, particularly things like taxing vacant land, tougher rules on Airbnb, short-stay accommodation, that sort of thing, more social housing. But I think what the government did in the recent budget just in May on negative gearing, capital gains tax, big politically risky moves to help first home buyers and rein in investors in the market, that's gone down very well with the Labor movement. So I think that's given the Albanese government plenty of cover on the housing issue at this conference.
David, it's a time of great change in the political landscape, of course, with the rise of One Nation. How is the ALP responding to that dynamic? How big a topic will it be there?
Catherine, it was really interesting on day one yesterday, and I think over the course of the next couple of days this will continue. The focus on One Nation from the Prime Minister down, this changed political landscape that we've seen over the last 6 months. Labor is now treating Pauline Hanson's party as a more serious threat than even the coalition, if you listen to those speeches yesterday. And look, Anthony Albanese sharpened his lines of attack against Pauline Hanson and so on. And also, he and others are looking as the antidote to this rise in populism and support for One Nation as really addressing the concerns of frustrated voters on cost of living in particular. The PM had a couple of announcements on that yesterday. No doubt we'll hear more from Anthony Albanese between now and the election. Cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. He sees that as the way to deal with this cohort of voters, more than a cohort really, a significant chunk of the electorate that are currently parking their votes with One Nation.
In years gone by, David, aspiring young politicians, even someone called Anthony Albanese, used to use these conferences to have a bit of a debate. Doesn't seem to be the case at the moment. How tightly controlled is all of this at the moment?
Very tightly controlled. James, as you would know, over many years this has been the forum, Labor conferences, for those fireworks on the conference floor, the robust debates over all sorts of things from uranium mining to gay marriage to boat turnbacks and so on. And Anthony Albanese has been right in the thick of that over many, many years. But now it is a far more controlled affair. Yes, there are policy arguments over things, this week, like gambling ads, like Gaza, all sorts of issues as well, local government funding. But they're all happening on the sidelines, away from the cameras, carefully controlled policy arguments amongst the rank and file, but then settled before they hit the conference floor. So there's no embarrassment for the government. Now, look, some of them lament the fact that they've lost that ability to have a transparent argument and yearn for those days. But I think from the Prime Minister at the senior level, there's a view that right now, with the landscape that we're in, One Nation causing a lot of trouble to not just the coalition but to Labor as well, they want to show that they're unified, disciplined, a sensible party, not a rabble. So I think it suits the Prime Minister to have none of these arguments going on publicly, but he will argue that this is actually sensible for Labor right now politically as well.
David, Pauline Hanson stirred up outrage this week with her comments on domestic violence. Is any of this actually damaging One Nation?
Look, it's always loath to predict what is going to damage One Nation. We did see their support come off a bit after Pauline Hanson's press club appearance some weeks ago. When she faced that extra scrutiny, we saw the numbers slip, but they've remained pretty resilient, it must be said, since then, even though she said various controversial things. Look, what she's been saying, or what's emerged this week about what she has previously said on domestic violence, may well turn off some female voters in particular, and perhaps men as well. We'll see. But I think it's fair to say that a lot of that support behind One Nation we're seeing in the polls right now is largely driven by frustration with the two major parties. It's that dissatisfaction, people fed up, that are parking their votes with One Nation. Whether they will stay there as we get closer to the next election, which is still another 18 months away or so, that's very hard to know.